take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty, and welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, August 20th, 2014, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thank you so much for making some time for us today. We're going to bring you the latest news in marijuana reform from coast to coast, and we're going to continue our week-long look at this last weekend's Seattle Hempfest. Also, we've got videos from the Tacoma CannaCon at the Tacoma Dome as well. Just chock full of video content all week long. Check that out. And today, we're going to focus mostly on the women of Seattle Hempfest. We've got speeches coming up from Americans for Safe Access Washington coordinator Carrie Boyder. We've also got nurse Marcy Cooper, a practicing registered nurse, giving her opinion on cannabis medicine. We've got Trista Okel, an activist from here in Oregon, and Lindsay Reinhart as well, the two of them both from Oregon, in the cannabis community chat. And then in Ladies of Legalization, we'll round out the day with Sarah Frank from Moms for Marijuana, and Betty Aldworth, the Executive Director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. But also, we're going to give you Rick Steves' keynote speech from the Seattle Hempfest main stage, so stay tuned for that. Rick Steves always has great stuff to say about marijuana legalization. But first, we'll start with our 420 radio news. As mentioned, we've got headline news from Minnesota, where medical marijuana is not coming quick enough to help one or two families there. Tom Gorman with the Rocky Mountain high-intensity drug trafficking area has a prediction about legalization in Colorado. We've got a study from Sweden saying that pot smoking will land you on disability. A 72-year-old California woman suing a hair salon over a pot cookie, and news from the big island of Hawaii where they're having some task force meetings on medical cannabis there. So we'll bring all that to you coming up right after the first break. Also on the show today, when we go into Hour 2 Toker Talk Radio, we have got more from the CannaCon at the Tacoma Dome. Dave Rines from the Marijuana Business Association and Garen Angel, the president of Magical Butter, joined us at the MJBA booth. We'll talk to them. Plus, we've got a walkthrough at the CannaCon at the Tacoma Dome and interviews with a few of the vendors there, so you can kind of get an idea what was going on. And then also on the show today, we have a special guest joining us in studio. We have got Gordon Green from Gordon Green's Music Planet here today. How you doing, Gordon?
I'm doing great, Russ. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic, and happens to be here in the Portland area, so we'll talk to him more in Hour 2. Plus, we'll have our Irie Wednesday Daily Toker tune, some more great music from Manu Chao. I love the last tune that we got, so I'm looking forward to this. All right. Also on the show today, we have in the second hour, we'll have time for a radical rant. I've got so many of these videos to show, but I just cannot let this particular day go by without ranting on this latest topic. And it's in the Washington Post. The title of the op-ed is, "I'm a cop. If you don't want to get hurt, don't challenge me." Oh boy, I got a few things to say about that in the radical rant. And then also at the very end of Hour 2, we'll talk a little bit about how Kevin Sabet, the Joker to my Batman, is on his way to Oregon to campaign against legalization, funded on the taxpayer's dime. Oh, I got a few things to say about that too. All that's coming up next on the Russ Belville Show. 2 hours of live daily talk radio on marijuana reform, legalization, and business. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back with the news after these messages.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420.
Join us for the International Cannabis Business Conference September 13th and 14th in the Portland Ballroom at the Oregon Convention Center. The International Cannabis Business Conference will focus on the emerging cannabis industry in Oregon, the United States, and around the world, putting you in front of the industry's foremost entrepreneurs, political leaders, and attorneys. Also showcasing over 40 cannabis-related industry exhibitors, offering VIP lunches and free nightly networking events. Prepare yourself for America's next great industry.
Weeducated Talk Radio, replaying Mondays at 10 Pacific on 4.
Hi, I'm Richard Harris. I'm the former director of addictions and mental health for the state of Oregon. Drug treatment and prevention are woefully underfunded right now. Measure 91 will better fund drug treatment and prevention programs. Marijuana isn't going anywhere. We're not stopping it with the war on drugs. You have to remember that marijuana is a pretty benign drug. It doesn't have the usual dependency features of, say, heroin or alcohol abuse. Now, marijuana feeds drug cartels and fuels violence. We can crack down on that. Take the money from drug cartels and, by the law, spend it on law enforcement, treatment, and education. Criminalizing marijuana is just no way to solve the problem. That's why treatment people like me are supporting Measure 91.
It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, August 20th, 2014. Minnesota became the 22nd medical marijuana state this year, but not soon enough for two families, one who left Minnesota for Oregon and another who stayed and faces prison. Angela Brown began giving cannabis oil after she took a vacation to Colorado and discovered that it helped her 15-year-old son's seizures. She now faces 2 gross misdemeanor charges, including child endangerment, which could mean 1 year in prison and a $3,000 fine. Angela Brown told Fox 9 News, quote, "I mean, you finally find something that works for your child, that takes the pain away, and I had to give it up because I had a fear of going to jail. Because how am I supposed to take care of my child?" End quote. Meanwhile, Jessica and Jeremy Hauser are separated by 1,800 miles, and she cares for their 2-year-old son Wyatt in Eugene, Oregon. Wyatt's seizures have been cut in half thanks to cannabis oil. Jessica Hauser said, quote, "He discovered himself in the mirror for the first time. We've been waiting for him to do that since he was 8 months old." End quote. Wyatt is no longer taking the many prescriptions that cost thousands of dollars each month, and instead is living better with $50 worth of cannabis per month. Tom Gorman, director of the Rocky Mountain High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program that coordinates state and federal drug police, predicts, quote, "Within 4 to 6 years, there will be a ballot initiative to overturn marijuana legalization," end quote, in Colorado. Gorman bases his prediction on the new release of data from his agency showing an alleged 100% increase in, quote, "people killed in marijuana-related accidents," end quote, over the last 5 data years. The data show that in 2007, 39 drivers, passengers, bicyclists, or pedestrians were killed in accidents that tested positive for marijuana, while in 2012 there were 78 such fatalities. Gorman failed to mention that during that 5-year span, fatalities overall dropped 15%. Furthermore, marijuana is detectable for weeks, and what difference does the pot found in the system of a passenger, bicyclist, or pedestrian killed by a driver make anyway? The fight to legalize Alaska is on the ropes in the polls. The latest public policy poll released this month shows legalization trailing 44% to 49%. Support has fallen 4 points over the summer, as the poll in May showed legalization leading 48% to 45%. The state's constitution already protects the personal possession of a quarter pound and 25 plants in the home, and legal markets may be too much for the state's conservatives, who made up 43% of those polled. Only a third of conservatives and a sixth of strong conservatives support Alaska legalization. Shockingly, even among voters aged 18 to 29, support is only 48%. A new study in the Journal of Alcohol and Drug Dependence claims that those who use pot heavily as teens are more likely to end up on disability. The study followed 50,000 men drafted into the military service in Sweden in 1969 and 1970. The men were grouped into never used, light use, moderate use, and heavy use groups. About 9% of the men used moderately, 11 to 15 times by age 18, and 1.5% used heavily, or over 50 times by age 18. For the heavy users, there was a 30% greater chance of going on disability, even after accounting for confounding factors such as class, drug use, and mental and physical health. However, of the 654 heavy users, 4 out of 5 also used other drugs, leaving just over 130 who were marijuana users only. Nearly half were problem drinkers, and over half had psychiatric diagnoses. A 72-year-old California woman is suing a hair salon she claims left marijuana-infused cookies out for customers to eat. The woman ate a cookie placed on a tray as she exited salon following beauty services. An hour later, her lawsuit contends she had, quote, a severe reaction including hallucinations, rapid heartbeat, confusion, disorientation, lightheadedness, dizziness, blurred vision, tingling, a headache, and nausea. She found herself unable to speak or had delayed speech and was completely incapacitated, end quote. Fearing a heart attack, she went to the hospital where lab tests showed she had active THC in her blood. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, August 20th, 2014.
420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization radio. The International Cannabis Business Conference takes place September 13th and 14th at the Portland Ballroom in the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon. Featured speakers include Oregon Senator Floyd Przansky, U.S. Congressman Earl Blumenauer, Daily Dish blogger Andrew Sullivan, author Doug Fine, and Harborside CEO Steve D'Angelo. To learn more, visit our website at international.
My name is Richard William Riggs. I'm a judge in Oregon. In 1998, I was elected to the Oregon Supreme Court, where I served until October of 2006. I've been asked to give my views about the new approach to marijuana initiative that is going to be before the voters very soon, and I'm happy to do so. I've read the measure, and I'm going to vote for it. And the reason I'm going to vote for it is because I think that it's inevitable that marijuana is coming to Oregon in one form or another. And I hope it comes in the form of a good bill like this one. If we're going to have marijuana in Oregon, this is the way to do it. Drugs, and marijuana particularly, play a huge role in the economic engines of most of the local gangs. The gang-related violence that occurs is often as a result of bad drug transactions of one kind or another. I think the proper legalization of marijuana and the control of it in an appropriate way is a substantial step forward to eliminating some of those problems. Using the criminal justice system to enforce certain societal social norms is kind of a waste of resources. It takes away from the criminal justice system dealing with forcible rapes and murders and so forth. I've read this measure, and I'm going to vote for this measure. And I think anybody who reads the measure and gives it careful thought will probably join me in that vote.
New Approach Oregon is a coalition of Oregon citizens who believe that treating marijuana use as a crime has failed, costing taxpayers millions in law enforcement resources. Our approach will regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana for adults in Oregon. We can move Oregon forward and create new revenue for critical services. Visit our website at newapproachoregon.com or our page on Facebook at New Approach Oregon. Thank you.
All right, we got more video from Seattle Hempfest. We're going to start things off with Carrie Boyder from Americans for Safe Access.
We still got a lot of work ahead of us. In between the policy of state and federal law, there are some individuals who find themselves caught up in the conflict. See, while it may be legal here on the state level, on the federal level, it is still illegal. And so what happens is the federal government comes in and they say, we don't care about your state law. We're going to take you to prison anyway. And it's happening here to a family in Washington State. Have any of you heard about the Kettle Falls Five?
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's happening to them is that they are a group of 5 people who are legal medical marijuana patients. They were growing for themselves up in the mountains, minding their own business, and a plane flew over and saw them. So the state came in and checked out their garden, realized that they were legal, and the county refused to prosecute them. Well, good old Uncle Sam decided to come in and intervene and has went after them and is charging them with felonies for violating the Controlled Substances Act. So they're now facing 10 years in prison, mandatory minimum, for following the state law. They weren't selling it to anybody. They weren't providing it to anybody. They were just growing for themselves, a group of 5 people. So the problem is that our policy has changed on the federal level. The Department of Justice has put out several memos saying that they're no longer going to go after individual patients. And when the news stations ask the president and the attorney general what they're doing about medical marijuana, they say they're not going after individual patients. But we know that's a lie. And the problem is that the policy changes, they're obviously not good enough if the U.S. attorneys aren't paying any attention to those memos. So that means that we need to actually change the law. Law is different than policy. So on the congressional level, Congress has decided to start to take action on this. They realize now that these policy changes have failed. They realize that they've been being fed lies this whole time, and now they're ready to act. So they passed a bill by a margin of 219 to 189, which says that they're going to restrict funding for the DOJ to interfere in states with medical marijuana laws. $180,000 is spent every single day to interfere in our medical marijuana programs. In the time Hempfest is going on, over $500,000 will be spent interfering in our state medical marijuana programs. So this bill would say, no more, you don't get any more money to come in and arrest patients and their providers. And that was so successful that our representative here in Washington, my awesome representative from Tacoma, Denny Heck, sponsored a similar bill. And it said that the Department of Treasury could not spend its money to arrest banks who are allowing businesses to deposit their money. So that passed with an even bigger margin of 231. This is the first time Congress has taken action on these policies on the national level. The first time. And why stop there? Why not just go ahead and actually move marijuana out of the Controlled Substances Act? Who thinks that's a good idea? So H.R. 689 would actually move marijuana from Schedule 1, and it would also move research out of the National Institutes for Drug Abuse, which does not allow any research on the benefits of medical marijuana. That's why there's no studies to back up what we know is true, because NIDA is not allowing them to happen. So H.R. 689 would move it out of the hands of NIDA and allow us to finally take a look at these studies with medical marijuana to prove what we already know is true. So what can you do about this? Well, right now it just so happens that all of your Congress members are on vacation and they're in their home districts, and you can make an appointment with them. See, they work for you, believe it or not. You call them and you make an appointment and you tell them there's 3 different bills that they can vote on right now to change this. 2 of them have already been passed in the House. The House has already passed it. It's waiting in the Senate. Once the Senate passes it, it goes to the president's desk. We could actually be ending this prohibition, but it takes you guys calling on your Congress members who work for you and tell them you're sick of $180,000 a day being spent on this crap. You can also support organizations that are making these changes on the federal level. Americans for Safe Access is a member-based advocacy organization that works for patients. They are a voice for you on the state level. They're a voice for you in Washington, D.C. These bills I was just telling you about, half of them are coming from them. So get involved. Find the organizations that represent what you're interested in. Join them. Find a way to actually make your voice heard and contact your Congress people today and get an appointment while they're home. Don't let us waste any more money. Don't let us waste any more time. Don't let any more families be prosecuted. Get active now. Thank you.
Come and see the violence inherent in the system. Help, help, I'm being repressed.
All right, that sound means it's time for the safety meeting. Yes, on the suggestion of our listeners who said we should change the fire bell to something else. Some listener yesterday mentioned it should be a factory whistle since we're about to go on safety meeting. Made perfect sense to me. So happy 420 to those of you out in Colorado and the rest of the Mountain Time Zone. We'll be back with more videos. Rick Steves, the acclaimed European travel writer, up next from Hempfest. What are y'all doing? 420 Radio, the activist radio station. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio. Marijuana Compassion and Common Sense, replaying Tuesdays at 10 Pacific on 420radio.org. Are you a hypocrite? If you live a closeted cannabis lifestyle, you are. Read about 7 people living a closeted cannabis lifestyle who are on the verge of coming out in The Hypocrites by Mara K. Eaton. Available at areyouahypocrite.net. You can purchase the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, also available on iTunes. Check out Mara K. Eaton on Facebook as well. Learn more at areyouahypocrite.net.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everyone. 22 after the hour, breaking up our look at the ladies of Seattle Hempfest. We got Rick Steves.
Such a pleasure being up here and introducing all these incredible speakers, and we got a whole lot of movers, shakers, history makers, and risk takers up here making things happen. And one of them is one of our proud sponsors for many years, and a great friend to all of us. Rick Steves writes European travel guidebooks and hosts travel shows on public television and public radio. He's been very outspoken on the need for Americans to fit better into our planet by broadcasting his perspectives through travel. He's an active member of the Lutheran Church. He's a board member of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, NORML. And Rick has provided his local YWCA with a 24-unit apartment building to house homeless mothers, because that's the kind of guy he is. Give it up to a tremendous advocate, one of the people responsible for you having legal marijuana in this state, travel writer, TV guru, travel genius, Rick Steves.
Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful day. Nice to be here. As Vivian said, I'm a travel writer. I go to a lot of very nice places. That's my work, and for me, high is a place, right? And I feel very strongly that our government has no business telling us we can't go to a certain place without a good reason, and there's no good reason we can't go to that place called high. Now we know that. That's been my theme here for a decade of talking this up, and we proved that politically 2 years ago when we won the election with I-502. But as you know, this is just the beginning, and we're in a very long struggle to take apart prohibition one state at a time, and it needs patience and it needs finesse. You know, we did alcohol back in the 30s, and it was complicated. When the federal government makes a prohibition, the federal government doesn't take it down. It has to be taken down one state at a time. And with alcohol back in the 30s, first New York said, you can drink beer. You can't drink hard liquor and you can't brew it. And then other states said you can drink beer, and then they said you can drink hard liquor, and finally they said you can even brew it at home. Well, we're on that same evolutionary track right now. 2 states out of 48 have a way where we can actually smoke marijuana as adults responsibly as a civil liberty, and this is great news. Now, what we're up against is we're the coolest corner of this country, and our government has spent $1 billion wiring the brains of everybody else to think marijuana is an evil weed, and we got to redo that. And we need to do it carefully. And one great thing when you're talking against lies is track records. In the old days, we didn't have track records. Now we've got track records. Portugal legalized all drugs 10 years ago. Amsterdam has not arrested a pot smoker for 25 years, and for 2 years, marijuana has been legal in Colorado and in Washington. Is marijuana a gateway drug? No. In Portugal, they legalized it, and it didn't make more people use hard drugs. As a matter of fact, in the 10 years that pot has been legal in Portugal, hard drug use has gone down 50%, as people who understand drugs obviously would know. Do more people smoke when it's legal? No. They just come out of the bushes instead of doing it as criminals. In the Netherlands, they know that it's better to be able to buy marijuana legally than from criminals on the streets who have a vested interest in getting you hooked on something more profitable and more addictive. In Copenhagen a couple of years ago, they rolled back on the coffee shops and in the pot sales shacks in Christiania. Suddenly, gangs were selling pot on the streets of Copenhagen, and the first time in memory, people were getting killed. There was murders on the streets for turf wars of drug dealers. In Amsterdam, they tried to push back the coffee shops. The federal government said, roll it back. The mayors put down their foot and said, no, we want coffee shops, because if we don't have coffee shops, we'll have criminals in the streets. That's what we're learning here. That's why Pete Holmes is on board, and that's why all over this country people are realizing the illogic of our war on marijuana. For 2 years, Colorado and Washington have been working on this. DUIs have not gone up, they've gone down. Crime has gone down, use has not gone up. The only thing that's gone up is taxes, tax revenue. And that's not a bad thing, because that money was going to crime, organized crime, and to the sellers on the streets. So this is an exciting fight we're in. I understand I-502 is not perfect, but it is an exciting leap forward. 2 states have legalized, 48 to go. I call them the lower 48. We've got to work on the lower 48 now, and the whole nation is looking at us here in Washington and Colorado, waiting for a misstep. It's very important that we are responsible. It's critical that we have smart and clear parameters, and that we give the feds no excuse to roll back, because if there's one unfortunate incident, you know the fear, you know the power of media, and the whole country's going to jump on it, and we will slip back. We are very, very excited about the momentum, but we need your help. That's why I've been a board member and a paying member of NORML for the last decade. I would challenge you to get involved and to take advantage of this momentum and help us out. I'll be going down to Oregon next month and giving 15 talks in 7 days all over that state, explaining to people why they should do what we've done in Washington here, and then we're going to move across the country. We need your help. Hempfest is more than pot. Hempfest is a celebration of civil liberties, and that's why I'm here. I'm in favor of civil liberties. I am a hardworking, tax-paying, church-going, kid-raising American, and after a long day of work, if I want to go home and smoke a joint and just look at the fireplace for 3 hours, that's my civil liberty. Is that right? That's right. We know that because we are Washington State, and we have made the responsible adult use of marijuana legal. The rest of the country's going to follow us. We need to get involved and make that happen. As I like to say, happy travels, even if you're just staying home, okay? Thank you.
.420 Radio, the home of marijuana experts.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher.
My name's Tara Sulzin, and I've worked in environmental conservation for many years. I'm a big supporter of Measure 91 because our current marijuana laws have failed us. We have the opportunity this fall to vote to support legalizing, taxing, and regulating marijuana in Oregon. There are many obvious reasons for reforming marijuana here in Oregon. There are over 12,000 arrests and citations each year. That's one every 45 minutes. I think those are the wrong priorities for our public safety. And there are also many other unintended consequences that come with the current system. By treating adult marijuana use as a crime, we're forcing those who grow marijuana to exist in the black market. That means they go out into our natural areas, wilderness, and forests to grow marijuana. These illegal marijuana grows pose a serious environmental problem because they don't belong in our forests and natural areas. They remove vegetation, they harm our habitat, and they hurt wildlife. Regulated marijuana would be grown like normal crops, but illegal marijuana growers are tapping into our fragile creeks and streams and actually dry them up. It's not just outdoor marijuana growing that poses a threat to our environment. Illegal indoor growing does as well. Because they can't take advantage of energy conservation programs, indoor growing wastes a tremendous amount of power. There are a lot of reasons to support regulating marijuana with Measure 91. Protecting our environment is one of them.
While humans have been using cannabis for medicinal purposes for over 5,000 years, medical science is only beginning to unlock the secrets of the endocannabinoid system and the promise of cannabinoid medicines. Join us now for the latest cannabinoid medicine update.
Information to be disseminated nowadays, I'm telling you, you can't just get it all in one spot. So we're leaving it up to you to really do that yourself. Because I'll tell you, whether it's you're going to learn how to do a dab over here, or whether you're going to learn how to trim bud over there, or Dutch Master with their nutrients over here, I mean, it's mind-boggling. All right. Another mind-boggling moment here. Nurse Marcy is coming up here. She's going to be telling you about some of the things that she's been doing with the American Cannabis Nurse Associations. Please give it up for Nurse Marcy. Come on up here, Marcy. She is a wonderful person.
Hey, Hempfest, how are you today? I'm here because I care, and I care about patients. I care a lot, and I work for an absolutely amazing company that this weekend is launching in Washington State with Mary's Medicinals. If you haven't heard, transdermal cannabis patches are changing the way patients can medicate. Mary's Medicinals makes the exclusive producer of the transdermal cannabis patch that's accurately dosed, cleanly delivered, and discreet to use. As a nurse, that makes a difference for me when I can help my patients choose medicine that's safe and effective. In Colorado, it's really awesome to see that patients have easier access, not just because of medical marijuana laws, but because of the legalization for recreation. Patients don't have to wait 30 days now. They can run to the store if they want to. For a long time, what I've seen is more and more patients, they don't want opiates. They don't want the anti-anxiety medications. They want something to help them feel better that is not going to give them side effects that they don't want. So what I'm seeing is it's really eye-opening for me. I didn't think I'd be here. I wouldn't have never guessed I'd be here a couple of years ago. But as fate would have it, I start reading the research that's out there, and it stops me in my tracks. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Why is this illegal? Why don't patients all across this country have access to this? This is not okay. Patients are getting arrested. They're losing their kids. They're going to jail. They're losing their homes. They're losing their jobs. because they're choosing a safer alternative. That just doesn't make any sense to me at all. You know, and another thing I wanted to tell you about is the American Cannabis Nurses Association. There are a lot of organizations out there that are trying to make a difference for all of the patients. You know, this is one that the mission is to educate and help advance the understanding of the endocannabinoid system of cannabis and cannabis therapeutics. We're going to do this through education and research, patient advocacy, collaboration, and trying to make a difference for these politicians and explain to them why this is medicine. We hope that we can get your support. Please come check us out at booth 310 at Mary's Medicinals. And happy Hempfest. Love you guys. Thanks.
That's Nurse Marcy Cooper from Seattle Hempfest talking about the topical use of cannabis. That's just yet another way we can help patients out with the amazing cannabis medicine. We got more of the women of Hempfest, their speeches coming up. Trista Okel from Oregon and Lindsay Reinhart from Oregon in the Cannabis Community Chat, followed by Sarah Frank and Betty Aldworth in Ladies of Legalization. Then in hour 2, we will talk to Dave Rhines and Garen Angel at the Tacoma Canicon. It's the Russ Belville Show. We'll be right back.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, fighting prohibition since 2012. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
That's a good pot for you.
No.
Cocaine?
No, thanks.
Yo, my man, you want some ludes? No way.
If someone offers you drugs, instead of saying something you really don't mean, just say, no.
Got some centennial for you. No.
No. No big production number. Just say, no. You'd be surprised how well it works.
Pot?
No.
This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. The cannabis community is a diverse set of people from all walks of life, conservative and liberal, black and white, straight and gay, rich and poor, and everyone in between. Learn more about the people we are freeing from adult marijuana prohibition in our Cannabis Community Chat.
Hey everybody. I was really glad to hear today that I get to speak after 420, meaning that all of you will be a little bit more receptive and patient with my nervousness. So obviously that's true and I'm golden. As Steve said, I began 10 years ago. This is the 10-year anniversary of my trial. It was really, really nerve-wracking. I had to await trial for 11 months. Awaiting trial for 11 months is a really scary thing to do. I had depression, I had anxiety. I had fear of leaving the house because I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. The DA lived in my neighborhood, and it was really scary. So finally, when I went to trial, it was a 2-day trial. I was very fortunate that the jury saw how ridiculous it was that I was being prosecuted for 3 plants that weighed 31 grams total. Sorry for the M. That said, after I was acquitted, I was really relieved, of course, but I was also really angry. I discovered, after digging into statistics and connecting with other activists, that, well, for instance, in 2012, someone was arrested for cannabis every 42 seconds. So, you know, the whole time I'm up here, there's 5 people getting arrested, 6 people getting arrested, right? Not cool. So I started my activism and started speaking, and I had the great pleasure of going to jail in Washington, D.C. with Americans for Safe Access and Steph Shearer and 12 other activists. That was great. Right? Best 6.5 hours of my life, I tell you. That was really inspiring. And I continue to be inspired by other people, both in activism in cannabis, but also in the cannabis industry. Cannabis entrepreneurs, by nature now, since we're not legal in all 50 states, are activists. Anytime you put your name out there and put a product out there, it makes you an activist. So, over the last few years, I developed a topical pain reliever, Empower. Originally, it was an acronym for Ending Marijuana Prohibition, Organizing Women to Enact Reform. Right? Because if you think about it, women started prohibition of alcohol, and they ended prohibition of alcohol, essentially. So why wouldn't it be the same for cannabis, right? Luckily today, 10 years later, there were people with experience in running nonprofits that were able to open up many different nonprofits focusing on women. And as you see, it's working. I encourage every single one of you to do something, whether it be writing letters to the editor, writing letters to your legislators, or just talking to everybody you can on the street. I wear my shirts for my company everywhere. It's not just because I'm branding, which I like to do that a lot too. It's also because, well, I'll show you the back. Okay, so it says put it where it hurts, and on the front it says it's a topical pain reliever, right? So I get a lot of questions, and that allows me to talk to people about medical cannabis and also about cannabis legalization often. It also allows me to talk to people that would never consider using cannabis in any other form. Any way that you can do that yourself in your own, either in your own industries or in your own free time, talk to people, demystify, and empower other people to speak out and to make a difference. We have that opportunity, especially now. And thank you very much for being here and for being patient with me.
Safe access to medication, where they're going to be embraced by their community. And we try to help them and love them and embrace them and show them what it's like to have family, your cannabis family. It is time to start standing up for each other. It is time to start standing up for ourselves. When you see an act of cannabis bigotry or canna bigotry, please start calling it out for what it is. It is time to stop being treated as a second-class citizen. My friend Russ is standing right here, and he always makes this excellent point of every time we go back into Idaho, which is where I'm from, we are automatically criminals because we have THC in our blood. And I guarantee you, I went back into Idaho and I could have broken any THC meter they had in my blood. So there's no way that I'm even okay to go into that state. And you know why? Because they're full of bigots. So the best thing we can do is try to save our neighbors. Undergreen Railroad just wants to help people get out of states that aren't going to be changing for a long time. We're not trying to steal activists out of the other states. We're not trying to cause any trouble. We just want to get people real medical care. If you know people that have meds, if you know people that have money, if you know people that need help, send them to us because we want to help them. We don't believe that anybody should be stuck in a non-medical state just because they can't afford to leave. Some of the sickest of the sick cannot afford to leave. And it is our job as a community that loves them to embrace them and pick them up and show them love and medicine in the form of medicine and get them the help they need. And we have to work together. It's a huge project, but we have to start treating this like the civil rights issue it is, because I am no lesser of a person because I chose to get off 22 pills and use cannabis. And neither is anybody else here in this park because we chose to use a safer alternative than alcohol. It is time to stop letting people treat us like second-class citizens. And the only way it will stop is if we all stand up for ourselves and each other. So please be human with each other and encourage humanity and compassion and your brothers and your sisters and teach them to embrace one another. And please give to one another and help. Thank you.
Come on, give it up for Lindsay Reinhardt. That is awesome. I just want to applaud you because I do want to remind everybody, which I do all day long, all weekend long, that 1 hour east of here is not like around here. 2 hours, 3 hours east of here, it only gets worse, folks, and that's exactly going to Idaho. Right, you're automatically a criminal just by what's in your blood. You know, you're probably a criminal just by having a dancing bear sticker on your car. You know? Yeah. So let's not forget, really, this fight here is really for them over there. Because that's what we're doing. We're giving them hope. We're giving them a glimpse of hope of what it can be like. Because a lot of you folks have no clue. All right.
At Royal Queen Seeds, we've got premium feminized cannabis seeds, including auto-flowering varieties for the medical cannabis user. We've got bulk shipments available and new CBD oil. Plus, we accept payment in Visa, MasterCard, and Bitcoin, as well as other methods. Check out our website at royalqueenseeds.com for more information. We are located in the Netherlands, and we have online grow experts ready to help you now at royalqueenseeds.com. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. In 1929, Pauline Sabin began the women's movement to end alcohol prohibition. 4 years later, the 21st Amendment was passed. Women are crucial to ending adult marijuana prohibition, and we celebrate women's marijuana activism in a segment we call Ladies of Legalization.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I can't hear you. I'm sorry, what? There we go. So I am Sarah Frank, and I am a mom. Obviously, moms for marijuana. That's why I'm speaking at Hempfest. My baby's in the front row down there. My other baby's over here. And I'm here to talk to you about moms and about pot. See, I'm from Boise, Idaho, and that's what we call marijuana. We call it pot. Can you hear me? Yeah. So my mom freaked out on me when I was 11 years old because I came home with a patch from a store in the mall that had a pot leaf on it. And she freaked out and stuck me in DARE, where I learned exactly what marijuana was and how to use it.
I thought that was pretty interesting coming from my Christian mother. But what was really interesting is when I got sick and I wanted to try marijuana, it was not available to me because I'm in Boise, Idaho. When I found out that it worked for my pain, I was able to stop using the pharmaceuticals and lose 100 pounds because I was able to get out of my bed. But when I went to the pain clinic, they told me that I couldn't be part of their pain clinic because I used marijuana. Instead, they wanted to give me a morphine implant at the age of 22. I wasn't okay with that because, again, I'm a mom. How can you take care of your child if you're on morphine? So they kicked me out and I just used my marijuana anyway. Thank you. So I'm part of this group called Moms for Marijuana, and what we do is we educate our children, and we educate our parents, and we educate everybody that we can. We do this through talking to them. We talk to them about everything that we learn about marijuana. What do you know about marijuana? What do you remember learning in high school about marijuana? Was any of that true? We know better now, but my mom thought it was true. She told me it kills brain cells, causes cancer, and is more intoxicating than alcohol. So of course, my entire life I went through thinking this about marijuana because I believed my mother, just like I hope my children believe me. And then I found out the truth. And then I got really pissed off because my mom lied to me and she didn't even know it. And her parents lied to her and they didn't even know it. And what's been going on is these lies since 1937 have been passed down from generation to generation, and it is the problem. Prohibition is the problem, yes, but it's lying to our children that is a huge problem, and it's not going to end anytime soon. One of the things that Moms for Marijuana does is kind of give advice about what we would do if we were in certain situations when it comes to marijuana. One of those situations that we are asked about almost daily is that of CPS. As a mother, your worst fear is not knowing where your children are or that they're okay or be able to take care of them. And thousands of parents face that fear every single day because of marijuana. I'm going to tell you a story about my boyfriend, Billy. His name is Billy Fisher. We're from Idaho. And his daughter was taken by CPS from her mother. Probably a very legitimate situation. We were okay with it because that's why CPS exists. Except they wouldn't then give her to her father because he was a medical marijuana patient. That sounds logical in Idaho, right? Except we weren't in Idaho. We were here in Washington. And Washington had just legalized marijuana. They had just stopped locking up non-violent people for marijuana. But they wanted him to do 30 days of inpatient drug rehab and 2 years of aftercare before he could even think about having his daughter come home. Even though he'd never had her, never abused her, never done anything to anybody that would hurt them. But still, the state of Washington thought that, oh, it's okay, he just needs to do rehab and then he can have her. So obviously the state of Washington didn't have the same mentality that we have about marijuana, especially when it comes to our children. And they told him, if you don't go to rehab, we're going to adopt out your child instead. They told him to quit fighting them, or they were going to adopt her out. They even told him, you can't go to Hempfest and speak on stage and tell everybody what we're doing. That's detrimental to your children. She can't come home to that. And then they set a date, May of 2014, to place her for permanent adoption. And Billy said, pardon my language, fuck CPS. And he fought back. And they told him that nobody had ever won in the courtroom against them. And they were wrong. The funny thing about that entire situation is they said that he was going to be so dangerous to this little girl if she came home because he's a medical marijuana patient. But the entire time, they were totally okay with my 10-year-old being there. And the reason for that, they get money from her if they adopt her out. It's hard to adopt out a 10-year-old who already knows the truth about marijuana. So we get up here on this stage to show you that you can fight them. You can tell them this is my child and I should not have to choose between my child and a safe medicine that gives me a better quality of life. So check us out, Moms for Marijuana. Find us on Facebook. Go to our website, momsformarijuana.org, but also check out the Fight for Lily Foundation. We are going to reform CPS policy regarding marijuana in this state. And we are going to abolish the federal adoption incentives, because our children are not currency for federal funding, especially us pot smokers. We will stand up and we will fight back. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Betty Allworth has served as spokesperson and advocacy director for the Colorado successful 2012 campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol, the collaborative committee responsible for legalizing, taxing, and regulating marijuana for adults in Colorado. She was the deputy director of the National Cannabis Industry Association in 2013. Give a warm Seattle Hempfest welcome to Betty Allworth.
Thanks so much to Vivian and the whole committee for having me here at Hempfest. What a beautiful day and a beautiful event. Are y'all having a good time? Well, the thing that Vivian didn't mention is that I'm the executive director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. Who knows SSDP? All right, very good. Troy Dayton was one of our founders 18 years ago. He and some of his friends recognized that the only way we were going to effectively end the drug war was by activating the student movement. The work that they did then has led us to today where we have 3,000 students on 200 campuses across the country and the world who are fighting to end the war on drugs. They were instrumental in the work we did in Colorado and the work we're doing here in Washington to make sure that not only can we make marijuana legal in these states, but we can build a better system. We can beat prohibition. We can demonstrate to people in every state in the U.S. and every country in the world that regulation works and prohibition has failed. So thank you all for coming out. Thank you for supporting Students for Sensible Drug Policy. If you are a young person who cares about ending marijuana prohibition, about ending the failed drug war, about ending the injustices that are associated with it, go to ssdp.org and get involved. There are young people who want to work with you across the country, so it doesn't matter where you go to school, they will help you out and get you engaged. And as volunteer efforts that Troy was talking about, and the meaningful work that we're going to do to make sure that...
Well, sorry to have to cut off Betty's speech there, but that's all the time we've got for today. Thanks for joining us on the Russ Belville Show. Stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. We've got more coverage from our last weekend in the Seattle and Tacoma area. We're going to take you to the Tacoma Dome, where we visited with Dave Rhines from the Marijuana Business Association and Garen Angel from Magical Butter. Great interview with those two gentlemen and a walkthrough at the floor of CannaCon so you can get a look at the world's largest cannabis business expo. Also, Gordon Green from Gordon Green's Music Planet's in the studio to bring us our Irie Wednesday Daily Toker Tunes. We got some live music from Manu Chao coming up. And time for a radical rant in the second half of the show about the attitude of that cop in the Washington Post. Oh boy, lots to say on that. Plus, Kevin Sabet coming to Oregon on the taxpayer dime. I'll have a few words on that as well.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
For Gordon Green, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!